Facebook is out. Welcome to Climbing the Pocket's Mock Draft Mondays. Who will the Vikings pick, and who's your favorite choice? And there we go.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Mock Draft Monday here on the Climbing the Pocket YouTube channel. I am here with the ultra awesome producer Dave and my new co-host Ryan. Gentlemen, are we ready to have some fun?
Let's roll, buddy.
All right. So we're going to go back to our original format. Last week, we kind of talked full big picture. We did a full round one mock draft. We're going to go back to our 4-round with trades, Vikings mock, to try and get some new ideas, some new faces. But first, kind of talked about a little pre-show. Let's talk about this Peter King article from last night. He had the Vikings acquiring Deshaun Watson and giving up quite a haul. And it was very similar to what the Texans' asking price was. Because Kirk Cousins goes to San Francisco and Jimmy G and pick 12 go to Houston. The Vikings also give up pick 14. Second round pick from 2022. First and second round pick from 2023. Anthony Barr, and Alexander Madison. It's a lot. And as we've kind of seen, teams that have given up a lot of draft capital have really struggled in the team building element. Just take a look at the Bears, the Texans, and the Rams. Their depth is just not very good, even though however good their top end players might be. The Bears are an interesting case because if Trubisky hits, it doesn't matter. Trubisky hits like anywhere close to a capable long-term starting quarterback in the National Football League, Bears might have a Super Bowl right now. That's how good that team was. But now they're kind of struggling. So, boys, the big question is, if this is offered and the Texans are all in, Deshaun Watson's waiving his no-trade clause, do you take the deal?
Yeah, let me go first, I suppose. When I look at that trade, it's a lot. It's really a lot to give up. I mean, Anthony Barr is an important part of this team and this defense. I've always been kind of the mindset that a linebacker is replaceable. He's going to be hard to replace. We won't get a replacement level talent in the defense, especially for what he's doing for us. As you mentioned, Tyler, in the pregame, he allows us to do a lot of different creative blitzing, both standard blitzing, zone blitzes, zone schemes, man schemes. I mean, he kind of really helps us out from that defensive spot or that linebacker spot. However, you have your quarterback who's 25, who's already shown to be upper echelon, maybe elite level talent that we all strive to find. We're always striving to find that talent. And if you can get that talent in, hopefully you get 10, 15 years of play out of that player. I think we can handle weathering, maybe 2-3 years of poor draft capital. Also, it's not a sure thing that those draft picks are going to turn into anything. Obviously, we might hit super well like a Justin Jefferson. We might hit super poorly like a Laquan Treadwell. So give me the guarantee, I suppose, over the potential of might hitting a person, right? So I think it's like 50% chance on the first round, then it drops significantly into the second, third round. So, when you take a look at it like that, I think it's more fathomable to do it. And overall, if gun to the head, you're telling me make a choice, I would say yes, let's pull the trigger and get your franchise quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. But it would be a tough pill to swallow because that's a lot. The way I look at it is you're trading away Kirk Cousins for Jimmy G and a first, and then you're trading away you're trading away Jimmy, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, Barr, and Alexander Madison for Deshaun Watson, which again, that's a lot of capital. But again, gun to the head, I would do it, and let's just roll.
So now here's the question. I'll counter with that because I think it's safe to say that Deshaun Watson is QB2 in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes is QB1. If that deal is offered to you for Patrick Mahomes, how quick are you smashing yes?
Immediately.
Then I think you need to be doing the same thing for Deshaun Watson because I would argue that he has played just as well in a worse situation.
I wouldn't say just as well, but yeah, I mean, he's if he had the tools and the coaching and the role players around him that Mahomes has, maybe it would be a swap situation where Mahomes.
Let me rephrase that. He has played just as well considering his situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think
maximized the situation as much as he possibly can.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected Watson to play as well as he did, especially last year, given the circumstances. I mean, trading away your best, some of your best players, trading away, or just having awful coaching in general, and a poor offensive philosophy that Bill O'Brien brought to the table, and just that horrid offensive line. I mean, they just didn't do a good job building around him, and they tried. I mean, I think they gave him some tools to work with in terms of, D-Hop for a while with Will Fuller. I mean, that's a good 1-2 punch at receiver, but they just couldn't build that line. And again, I think worst of all was just the coaching. It just didn't mesh as well as it could have. And I think that it didn't maximize his skills. So he was left improvising, taking sacks.
Playing hero ball.
Exactly. And so I hear a lot of Viking fans who are like, no, absolutely do not do this trade. He's only won 4 games last year, and so how is he better than Kirk? Like mentality, right? They know he's better. But it wasn't even just the offensive line. It was just the coaching philosophy in general, and he just had to improvise and go. And so he's holding on to the ball because he has to, because it wasn't schemed up the right way. And so, yeah, he's going to take sacks, but with every sack, you also get that opportunity for a huge play. And unfortunately, Kirk just can't give that for us. He can't create those opportunities. It's either it's schemed well for him or he has to try to improvise, which is not going to end well, usually.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Clifford. It sounds an awful lot like the Herschel Walker trade. And if you want to get my blood boiling, talk to me about that. We set up the Cowboys and their Super Bowls via that.
But that's for a quarterback, not a running back.
Well, at the time, we thought Herschel Walker was the key to get us to the Super Bowl. Now, as many of you know, I've done studies on Super Bowls and Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, and it takes an elite quarterback to win the Super Bowl, except for all of 3 Super Bowls. Deshaun Watson, I would think, fits into that mold. Now, where I disagree with Clifford is that Zimmer would ruin him. Everybody thinks Zimmer's set in his ways, but there are 2 quarterbacks that Zimmer did get along with very well. And to me, it would be whether he gets along with that quarterback as to whether how successful could be. It could be a nightmare, absolute nightmare, or it could be golden. But the key to the Vikings getting to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, is getting that elite franchise guy, and we haven't had that debatably since Fran Tarkenton. And without that, I don't think we get there. And do I believe Kirk Cousins is that person? He would be one of those falls into like the 4 guys that win the Super Bowl that had everything around him to do it. I don't think he's that guy. But would I do it if it was offered? Yes. Now, would we lose a lot? Yes. I agree with Ryan on the significance of Barr. Madison, I'm not that worried about. We can find another running back that can do that job. I'd miss him. I like him. But I don't think it's going to happen. So it's not much to worry about.
I agree, but it's also the middle of February. And even though in Minnesota it was 45 degrees today, it's still freaking February. So we got to have something to talk about. But that's not why we're here. We are here for another fun mock draft. 4 rounds with trades. Gentlemen, let's make some magic.
Let's start this draft. And we're off. If I hit the start button. There we go.
Pretty typical so far as to how you think it might roll.
Yeah, this is...
Uh-oh. We get a call. From the Super Bowl winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're offering their first round, third round, 7th round, and a third in 2022.
That's not enough. You got to at least get a 2 and then that 3 next year. You're moving down from 14 to 32. You can't do that.
All right. The Raiders. We move down from 14 to 17, pick up a 5th and a 7th.
I'm not willing to do that either.
I don't see the value, I guess, in that.
I'd take a 4, but I'm not taking a 5 and a 7.
Right.
Because that 4, you're looking at pick like 116, 118, 120, somewhere in there. That's worth it to drop down. But 163 and 242, I'm going to pass.
Okay.
I agree.
Perfect. All right, let's take a look at who we got on the board. Sammy Cosmi just went off, and he's a guy that I really like for the Minnesota Vikings. Very high upside tackle. All right, we're going to start by talking Kwity Paye. I just finished his film today, and he is 100% in Mike Zimmer edge confirmed. He's got the elite athleticism. Number 1 on Bruce Feldman's freaks list last year. I don't know if you saw the PFF tweeted video, but he ran a 6.3 second 3 cone. Which if he ran a 6.3 3 cone, he would be in the 99.9th percentile of all players that have run it at the combine.
Damn.
The only player that would have been faster is 2018, a cornerback named JT Thomas. Ran a 6.28. And not only does he have that elite athleticism, number 1 on the freaks list, he's got raw power that he uses very well, incredibly active hands. And he's got a very high football IQ, and he pairs it with great instincts. So when you watch him, he understands what blocking schemes are doing and where they want him to be in the running game. And he counters that and puts himself where he needs to be. So if it's a read option and you want the guy to rush all the way upfield, no, he's not doing that. He's kind of like moving laterally along the line, covering up that offensive lineman so he can't get to the second level, and then he's able to make the play. He has that kind of instincts. And when you watch the film against Minnesota, when we just got walloped by him in the first week of the Big Ten season, he was dominant. Yeah, in the fourth quarter, he had 3 plays in a row. 1, he caused the sack, and then the next 2, he got the sack. And he just showed the explosion, the active hands, the speed, everything you want. Because of all those factors, he's 6'4", 272. He is a perfect 5 technique for this defense. And I think if he's there, I don't know how many people would love the fact that we would take defensive end here. We haven't taken one in the first round since Erasmus James at 19 in 2005. But for me, it's a home run. Give an elite coach an elite athlete to work with, a high upside athlete who's already got technique, and you can just refine it. And Kwity Paye could be we could be talking 15 sacks a year.
Whoa.
Yeah, I agree. The more and more I watch of him as well, it's the one thing that just keeps popping out is explosive. It's a player that has tremendous upside that isn't even peaked, right? And he can only even get better. And with proper coaching, which we have some of the best D-line coaching in the whole entire league, I think that he can turn into one of those elite pass rushers in the league. He's the only edge rusher I would consider in the first round here, and the fact that he's here, I love it. The other two guys I'm just throwing out there, not saying we're going to take him because I think we're both on board that Paye is going to be the pick here. I absolutely love Christian Darasaw. I think he would be an elite level left tackle for us that would fit our scheme really, really well. But because he's an excellent run blocker, he can move well. He's got a lot of power. I think he's a really good pass defender. He can get better. Or I'm sorry, pass. He can get better. I mean, he's got some technique that he needs to clean up with hopefully some proper coaching. But all the power, all the athleticism's there for a left tackle of the future. Again, Paye is probably going to be the pick here. And then I'm just going to do one other shout out here to another player that we may consider here is J.C. Horn. I think we talked about him a little bit last week. when we were doing this. I love him. The more and more I'm watching of him too, he's actually moving up my list. I don't think he's got the best traits. I think Fairley does. I don't think he has the best tape per se. I think that belongs to Surtain. But there's something about him where he's got a little bit of both, and he's got that ultra competitiveness. He actually kind of reminds me.
I'll tell you what it is, Ryan. Sorry to interrupt. He's a dog. He's a junkyard dog. And when he gets in your face, he is going to chirp. He's going to be physical. He's going to punch you in the mouth. And he's got that attitude and swagger his daddy had when he played New Orleans. And right now, J.C. Horn is barely my cornerback 3. I thought he had better tape than Surtain because he was constantly all over the field. Nobody threw at Surtain. That was part of the problem with evaluating him. But Surtain he's boring. He just does everything so smooth and crisp. He's not exciting, but he gets the job done. I mean, his dad was a stud in Miami for years. I love the idea of Christian Darasaw. He's a road grader with great pass blocking technique. And if you get a guy like that, I recorded a Skull Search podcast, which you should check out on the Daily Norseman podcast feed, with Matt Valdivinos, offensive line guru and a draft analyst for Pro Football Network. Darasaw is his offensive tackle too, and he comped him to Trent Williams. Now, if you remember, Vikings went after Trent Williams last offseason. He's an athletic monster, and that's how he thinks of Christian Darasaw. And not only is Matt a great analyst and a great guy, but he's also a Washington fan. Been a fan his whole life, so he's seen a lot of Trent Williams football.
Absolutely.
I want our first pick to make an impact the first year, right?
He can do that.
And I don't care who it is as long as we get that guy that makes that impact. Because the Vikings, it tends to be a fluke when they do that, achieve that. Yes, we did it with Justin Jefferson last year. And part of that was luck because Philadelphia passed on him. All right, so, hey, some teams make bad choices. We got him. He was impactful. But go back, and when was the last impactful in their first rookie season, first-round choice the Vikings made? And I tell you, it's Anthony Barr in 2014. We haven't had one since. Up until Justin Jefferson. I want this year's to be just as impactful. If that's Kwity Paye, pick Kwity Paye. If that's Darasaw, pick Darasaw.
I think you need to temper your expectations just a little bit, David, because I don't think anybody's going to be as impactful as Jefferson. But if you want a guy who's going to make a difference and who's going to make plays year one, I think you're going to get that with Kwity Paye. I think Darasaw can also provide some of that too. Cornerback is just too hard to project year one. It's a 3-year projection for corners. You have that rarity. Marshawn Latimore was a borderline all-pro his rookie season. Jeff Okudah, who was a better prospect coming out of Ohio State, looked like ass his first year for the Detroit Lions. So it's a tough one. The farther away you get from the ball, the harder it is to project right away. I think Kwity Paye is going to be the safest bet because he already pairs great technique and instincts with that elite level athleticism.
And the explosiveness.
He kind of has that whole package. You're not just getting a high upside athlete like Gregory Rousseau who has zero technique whatsoever. You're not getting a guy who's all technique, but the athleticism just isn't there. You're getting everything. So I think Kwity Paye should be the pick.
And an instinctive and smart football player from everything that I'm seeing on him. So, yeah, I'm all on board with Paye here. Let's lock it in.
Paye is going to fill the Everson Griffen role to a T. He can come inside. He can stand up. He can do a lot of different fun things. Now, if you remember Everson Griffen's rookie year, he was a punt gunner as a defensive end. That was the kind of athlete he was. Paye is going to give you that same level of athleticism.
Good. And paired with Hunter, who, as Clifford says, will make an exciting duo. And because Hunter obviously will get the early attention, which leaves him free to do that sort of thing. I'm cool with Kwity Paye. I just want my first pick to make a difference, and I think that would in an area that we absolutely, positively, 100% need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and right now, as I'm stacking my big board, I'm only stacking players that I've finalized grades. Of everyone I've gotten to so far, which is a lot of the top guys, Kwity Paye is 5th on my big board. So that speaks volumes of what I think of him as a player and what I think he can be at the next level.
Okay. Is there any of these available players we want to trade up for? Not that we got a pick coming up momentarily.
I think Richie Grant is – oh, there he goes. Richie Grant was a guy that I was going to say, hey, I think we should really try and go after him. Plays a true single high safety. And when you have a guy like Harrison Smith, who's that riverboat gambler, it can be a really fun combination.
I'm big on Richie Grant. I'm big on Javon Holland as well. I think both of those guys, if they do sneak into the early third, would be a good get for us.
Mm-hmm. I think one that we got to talk about right now is a little bit of an off-the-wall selection, and it's Jabril Cox, the linebacker at LSU. I'll tell you why.
Yes, please.
One of the things that great teams do is they draft for the future and they don't draft for this year. Do we need a linebacker right now? No. We need a third linebacker with Kendricks and Barr. But you're not going to be able to continue to pay Kendricks and Barr consistently for the next however many years. You just aren't. You're going to have to look for another player to put in those positions. Jabril Cox has the size of Anthony Barr. He's a little bit shorter, but he's long. He's a great athlete. He plays well in space, in coverage, blitzes. This is somebody who, if you feel you need to move on from Anthony Barr after this year, Jabril Cox could take over. And right now, he is a guy who would be able to play that third linebacker. And if you want to sit Barr out or get really creative with him as a pass rusher, you put Jabril Cox in his spot, and he's going to be just fine. So I think he's a really good developmental linebacker, and he can make an impact right away, both in standard and nickel packages and on special teams.
How's he against the run?
He's good against the run. I have not finished Jabril Cox's tape, but from everything I can see, he's going to be better in pass coverage than he is going to be against the run. And with Michael Pierce there, I'm not super concerned about him not being an elite run defender.
Okay.
I think he's capable. And for me, that's good enough in what this league is becoming.
Yep.
Okay. So
you almost rather have that linebacker. I mean, obviously they need to be a run defender as well, but that flexibility to be a coverage linebacker is so important because in this league, it's not just 1-2 and then throw. It's people are throwing on first down when you think they're going to run, and it gets mixed up so much. So you have to have your linebackers be athletes in the open field as well, and he is that. And he throws a lot of thump in there too. I love linebackers who can get in there and mix it up and with the big guys, and he can do that. So I really like his tape. Another guy I like here a lot is Paulson Abedo from Stanford, cornerback. I think it's important if we don't. Again, this is on knowing what we don't know. So we don't know if we're going to get a vet cornerback to bring in. If we don't bring one in the free agency, I think it's important to try to grab one no later than your third round pick, with either him or with like a Trill Williams. I think either one of those guys would be good. I like Paulson here a lot because, again, he has the ability he's very scheme diverse. So he's played a lot of zone. He's played a lot of man. He's about 6'1", 200, I think, or like 190. And he can mix it up with receivers at the line of scrimmage. He gets a little grabby, so he's going to need to work on some technique, especially at the top of the receiver route. But I think that he provides that length and that competitiveness to make a difference. That could be another good outside corner to pair with Dantzler, while Gladney takes in the slot. Again, this is assuming we don't get a cornerback in the free agency, which I assume we will, but if we don't.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Paulson Debo guy. He really did struggle the last time we saw him on the football field, and he was hurt as well. One of the reasons why he ended up returning to school. Obviously, the man is really good in man coverage, plays a good press man. I wonder if Zimmer's going to really love him. And there are other guys that I'm going to like here over Debo, but I can understand the draw. Peyton Turner is another guy. If we didn't take Kwity Paye, that I think would really be on the board here. Played 3 technique at 290 last year. Came to the Senior Bowl at 270 as an edge, and really wild playing both inside and outside. And he dominated the BYU game and just made their offensive line look silly. So that could be another fun one. We talked about Spencer Brown before. I think Jackson Carman's not going to be nearly the athlete that the Vikings are looking for as far as those metrics with how they value offensive linemen. Right here, I'd say just for the sake of trying to be different, trying to get different guys on the board, we should take Jabril Cox for all the reasons that we already mentioned, and just kind of see where this goes. Take some new players, get some new blood in here, and try and see how we can continue to build the Minnesota Vikings. All right.
There's your
so we got a linebacker. We've got an edge rusher. So I want to talk about 2 interior defensive linemen right now. Osa Odigizua. I think that's how you pronounce it. The interior defensive lineman at UCLA really wowed the Senior Bowl. And Slim Aleem McNeil, the interior defensive lineman from North Carolina State. McNeil is fun. He's a disruptor. He's an athletic freak. And he would be a perfect developmental 3 technique tackle to play along the inside next to Michael Pierce, Daniil Hunter, and now Kwity Paye, who's going to be a Minnesota Viking as well. Odigizua can kind of do a lot of the similar things. I'm excited to get into both of their tapes. Unfortunately, I've not gotten to either of them. Hunter Long, moving on from Kyle Rudolph, could be an interesting one too, because he plays a very similar game to Kyle Rudolph. He is going to be what Kyle Rudolph was in like 2011, 2012 when he was in his first couple of seasons. He's going to be that big body target running up and down the seam. He's not going to be just a red zone target like Rudolph has been the last couple. So he could be an interesting option. Now is when you can start really considering guard. Josh Myers was a center at Ohio State, but I think he has some guard flexibility. They ran a lot of zone concepts there. He would be interesting. Paris Ford, the safety out of Pittsburgh, would be good as well. Demetric Felton, if you want that scat back, he is really good. And then my guy, Kyle Trask, Florida. I like him. Nobody else does. We're not taking a quarterback in round 3. So,
which is probably the best place to take him if we want to develop somebody. But
if you want to develop him, by all means. Kyle Trask was a late breakout because he sat behind Felipe Franks. He was only a 2-star recruit out of Manville, Texas. But the guy he had to sit behind throughout his entire high school career was De'Aaron King. And King was a top 5 recruit in that recruiting class. So it's a little bit understandable. But when he did play, he was really good. And then obviously he almost won the Heisman Trophy this season with the University of Florida. He does have some issues. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not going to be able to create well outside of structure. But he's a very smart, capable quarterback. One guy that, as you were scrolling, Dave, that I saw, Benjamin St. Just out of Minnesota. Keep an eye out. I have a podcast I'll be sending you here soon, Dave, recorded with the Gophers guru himself and the owner of the Vikings Corner, Daniel House, who I'm sure you guys know relatively well. We talked quite a bit about St. Just and how he translates to the National Football League. He is raw. He needs some work, but he is a high upside athlete with 99th percentile length and height.
Ooh.
And he's incredibly fluid with good makeup speed. So he's somebody that the Vikings might want to take in round 3 just to kind of develop, but you really don't see 6'3" cornerbacks. So he's an interesting case study. Ryan, when you take a look at the board, what do you see? What do you see and what do you like?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you here on McNeil. I'm a big McNeil fan. I've been watching some of his tape recently as well. He'd be kind of a big 3-tech for what we typically have at 3-tech, but he's not bigger than like Shamar Steffen. And I think he is stout, very stout against the run. And he can generate a lot of pressure up the middle with some power. He does need to work on some technique in terms of using some different moves. In terms of he's just more of a power guy. He's just going to try to bull rush you back in and then get the sack, or again create the pressure for somebody else to get the sack, which would be great with when you pair him next to Danielle Hunter and Kwity Paye now, and then you got 2 stout run defenders right up the middle
that are
and
pushing the lineman back into the quarterback's face.
I mean, where's that quarterback going to go? Big McNeil fan. I really like Andre Sisco, safety out of Syracuse. True center fielder. Romer can really great ball skills at the catch point. He did come away with a lot of interceptions from everything that I've seen. And so if you're looking safety, if we need a safety desperately, he's another guy. I do like, and I never say his name right, but Naziruddin. I think he would be interesting if he'd be an interesting fun piece for Zimmer to mess around with. I don't think he is a true traditional safety, but I think he'd be an interesting piece that he can kind of roam around to a much lesser extent like a Derwin James.
One thing with Cisco, and I have not had the ability to get to his film yet, but I kind of got a sneak peek when I was watching Ifeatu Melifonwu, his teammate, and one of my guys, Tyler Browning, who runs the Blue Chip Scouting site that I also contribute to, said that he didn't feel like he was as much of a ball hawk as he was a ball magnet, where the ball just kind of he was attracted to it, and the ball just kind of ended up in his arms. So I'm interested to see if it's more that he just got lucky and he just ended up with a lot of these interceptions and it wasn't necessarily his skill set per se, or if he's really that ball hawk that the stat sheet shows. So I'm really excited to delve in. It looks like
in the
Ryan,
right place at the right time. Maybe he can be that person that is in the right position to make interceptions. That's key to being a good defensive back.
Yeah,
or one of them.
At the same time, is it because he's incredibly smart and has that high football IQ, or is it because it's just dumb luck? And I think the unlocking his draft stock, you really need to answer that question, and I'll be really trying to delve into that. Unfortunately, we only got a couple games out of him because he tore his ACL early in October. But it looks like we're in agreement here. Aleem McNeil is going to be the pick at 90. Dave, we're building in the trenches, baby. How you feeling?
Yeah, and it's all defense, so Mike Zimmer's happy.
Mm-hmm. Mike Zimmer's happy, and you can address the guard position in free agency. All right.
Here we go.
101 and 210 from the Rams, and we give up 119 and 132.
And 143,
143
and a 7th next year.
To move up 18 spots and then move back about 60 and a future 7th.
I'm good without taking that offer.
I agree. I think we have a lot of holes that we still are yet to be filled that we can use those 4th rounders to really help. There's still quite a bit of either talent that has high potential or that can even come in and help day one on the board.
Right,
yes.
or at least be good, decent depth while they learn.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, so let's kind of take a look.
What do we got here? We got
Kenneth Gainwell, running back out of Miami. He is kind of like Antonio Gibson 2.0. Does a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Deante Smith, I think it's well known that he was my guy out of the Senior Bowl practice week. I absolutely loved his game. He's got elite length. He's got great size. And he bulked up from 274, which was his college playing weight, to 294, a good weight for the Senior Bowl. And he balled out. I think he's got tackle guard flexibility right away. But I think long term, you're going to want to have him at tackle. Ronnie Perkins, I know, is your guy, Ryan, so we're going to completely skip him. The Notre Dame kid, Ade, I think it's like Ogunjobi. He really played well at the Senior Bowl. Same with Cameron Sample, which is why they're both available right here. Darius Williams is a good cornerback out of Oklahoma State. Honestly, we have a lot of different ways we can go. Wide receiver is an option here as well. Seth Williams is on the board. Chuba Hubbard we're going to completely ignore because I don't think he's draftable in round 4. I think he's Michael Bennett. If you guys remember Michael Bennett from 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
Straight line speed, not great vision or agility. He's Michael Bennett without the speed. So, our Darius Washington,
not a great pass catcher either. I mean, if you're not going to have that, you better be able to contribute in the pass game, and he just doesn't. Mm-hmm. So, I agree with you that I don't think he's draftable in the round 4. I'm a big Deante Smith fan as well. I think that for us to, regardless of whether we keep Reef or not, I think it's important that we do address that position. Whether we think Cleveland is going to be a left tackle in the future or not, I don't know. But it's if Reef's around, Cleveland's not playing left tackle, so that means that's 2 years of guard play for him. So that probably means he's going to be a guard. I think that you can draft Deante Smith. You can have him be your swing tackle this year. And then once we decide to move on from Reef, or if we decide to move on from Reef this year, I don't think he'd be ready to play day one, but who knows? I mean, once you get him in training camp and he can show what he's got. I'm also a big fan. I know you had said you liked him, so I looked into him. And I think that there's a lot to like. I have not gotten through nearly enough of his tape, but from the flashes that I've seen of him, he looks pretty good. So personally, I'd be taking Ronnie Perkins right now. I don't even care if we have Kwity Paye. Let's get a 3-man rotation and let's roll with that. But I think the smart pick and the right pick here is Deante Smith.
And at the very least, you're drafting him in the 4th round. He's a developmental type player. You have a swing tackle. You're not going to want to keep paying Rashad Hill $3 million to be a swing tackle. Get a guy who's inexpensive. He can play both sides. He's likely going to test with high in the metrics the Vikings value. So, and that's going to be a big deal with what this blocking scheme is. Plus, his anchor is better, in my opinion, than Ezra Cleveland's was coming out last year. So, Deante Smith, tackle East Carolina, my guy, comes off the board to the Minnesota Vikings at pick 118.
I like that one.
All right.
No, Ronnie.
All right, Ronnie's off the board. We don't have to talk about him. That's wonderful. Perfect. Excellent. Let's go. So one guy I have not gotten to talk about yet, Talanoa Hufanga, safety out of USC, had some injury issues. I have seen him go as high as like pick 40 in some mock drafts. I think he's going to be somebody where injuries are going to be a big thing for him. Can he stay on the field? Do his medicals look good? I haven't watched him at all on tape, so I don't know what kind of player he is. But if people I respect are saying that he could be a top 40 pick because of his skill set, he's definitely something we should look at in round 4. And then we have some of the people we already talked about already. Cameron Sample, we've talked about in previous episodes, absolutely balled out to the Senior Bowl, kind of overshadowed by his teammate Patrick Johnson at Tulane, but he's a very good player. Seth Williams, I think, is only available because his quarterback is Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is an absolute trash heap. Bo Nix is really bad at football.
So a possible 7th-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, so he's Nate Stanley? Well, Nate Stanley is immobile. Bo Nix can run. I like Seth Williams, his game. He's going to kind of be a prototypical X receiver. He's a big-bodied guy, great at the catch point. He's got some wheels. He's not the most agile guy in the world, but I think for somebody his size, he's going to kind of play like a Mike Evans type game. And I think there's a lot of value to that, especially in what the Vikings want to do with the skill set of weapons that they currently have. I think Jalen Twyman here could be another interesting selection, get more depth on that defensive line. He is a 3 technique, but I think the pick that I would make here, now that we're kind of looking down on the board, are Darius Washington, the safety out of TCU. And the only reason he's available at this point is because he's 5'8", $180. He's the Bob Sanders size. He's a fun size safety, but the guy can ball, and he is a really good football player.
You know how I feel about little guys on the football field, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, let's put it this way. 4th round, you're not getting complete products. You're getting somebody who has a genuine deficiency somewhere, whether it's off-field, whether it's motor, athleticism, production, and in his case, it's size. Size is the reason why he is a 4th-round pick and not a 1st or 2nd. There were a lot of people who were mocking him preseason in round 1, even with that size. Obviously, once you get a full season of play, you get guys rising up the board. Washington's probably going to be here because of his size, and I would consider taking him here at pick 125. And I think it would be a good selection because the Vikings need good playmakers at safety.
And also, he would be playing special teams straight off the get-go.
Yep,
he has that ability. And, again, going back to how we were talking about J.C. Horn and some of those other guys, and kind of like what Mary's saying here is people who are playing hard, tough football, that's our Darius Washington. He's a dog as well. He ain't afraid to go in and lay some wood. And I really like everything I've seen from him. I've been watching him for a couple of years now. Just obviously, we all know I'm an Oklahoma fan. So I've gotten
Wait, you're an Oklahoma fan? I thought you were a Texas fan.
Well, our Darius Washington's a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed playing. I think it's fun playing against him. Actually, he stood out to me more in games than his higher profile right now safety partner, Morig. And I always saw Washington flashing. Now, I understand that they both are really good safety. They had a really good safety tandem there. I think Washington would be a great pick here. Another safety I'm diving a little bit more into. I saw a lot of him play throughout the years, as well as Kaden Stearns from Texas. Again, he's going to be more on projection. He didn't have a ton of great production at Texas, but again, a bigger 6 foot, 200-pound safety, not afraid to go in and hit, but he takes some bad angles. Not always the best at the catch point, but I think he's got a lot of skills and a lot of traits that Zimmer could work with to really bring him to his full talents. So, and I like this. I like that size, that 6 foot, 210 safety. I like that size for a safety, and he can play single high or split safety. And same with Washington. So. Just you pick your poison.
I'm with you on Kaden Stearns. Texas is really interesting because they recruit incredibly well, but it feels like since Mac Brown left, no matter who the coaching staff is, they can't develop anybody worth a crap, and it's really sad because there's so many good athletes at the University of Texas. It's crazy. Kaden Stearns is one of them. Balled out as a freshman, just kind of was just a guy the last couple years, and really tough to see. But I think getting the right system with the right coaching staff, they can get the best out of him. Dave, I think we're going to go our Darius Washington, the safety TCU. We're going to take the small guy because we know how much you love him. Now, 134, we have the offensive lineman. We have safety. We had a couple defensive linemen. We have a linebacker. We've addressed every level on defense. We've addressed the interior and exterior offensive line with the flexibility of Deante Smith. Now I think we need to think about wide receiver. And wide receiver, Dave, can you pull up wide receivers, please?
Sure. Boom.
This is an incredibly deep wide receiver class. We have some good players here. Whoop Philor from Indiana, really good player. He's going to he's got a fantastic game. Whoop.
Wop.
Wop. Wop, baby. Wop, 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 wop. All right.
Hey.
Shi Smith is a guy.
That's a derogatory term. Wop.
Is it really? Oh, it's also a dance.
No, I can't. All right, you're not as old as I am. Obviously, WAP was a derogatory term that meant without papers.
Mm.
Oh.
It was used against Italians for quite a while.
Oh, I didn't know that. I learned something new today. Yeah, I just know it as a dance and jungle juice where you just get hammered at a college party.
Wow. But there's nothing wrong. I'm not offended. So, I'm just telling you. The woke
you're getting a culture lesson on Mock Draft Mondays. Shi Smith is a guy that I really like. Balled out at the Senior Bowl. Yes, Ryan.
I was to say, and feel free to finish on the Shi Smith before I talk here. But I was going to say that at this position we either need, I think, a little bit of size that can go upfield and do some contested catches and try to make some big plays like a Seth Williams, as you mentioned earlier, or we need a guy who can be a little bit more gadgety, right? Somebody who can take these reverses, take screens, take short slants and create big plays after them. And there's quite a few guys here like Wap, like Schwartz, like Newsome that can do that.
Well, do you want gadget guy or do you want receiver to do gadgety things? And I think they're two different things.
That's what I mean. As an actual receiver who can actually run routes, who can actually do things outside of just being a guy that you can. What we're looking for is a Percy Harvin. Again, I know it's not going to be that level of talent, but a Percy Harvin, not Cordero Patterson.
Well, I hate to break it to you, we're not going to find that here. But if you want anything close, Anthony Schwartz has legit 4.3 speed, and he's a burner. He's a track guy. He doesn't have the most advanced route tree, but he isn't incapable. He's good at the catch point, not great, and I think he's somebody that you can develop over time. And as a third wide receiver, you ask him to just do some basic stuff early on,
run deep,
evolve him, and you can get something as a wide receiver 3. I like Schwartz. I think he, as it kind of says there, best scheme is a vertical passing offense, and we're just not that. I would want to take Daz Newsome or Shi Smith here. I think Daz Newsome has a little more Newsome has a little bit more flexibility to not be a pure slot than Shi Smith does. We also have Josh Matter-Bebe, who I know we've taken the last 2 mock draft Mondays that we've done of Vikings. See, you've got West Coast scheme fit, and that's kind of what the wide zone is. It's a modified version of the West Coast offense. Mm-hmm. So
and
I think he
returner.
Yes.
We
and
can't
that's
have enough of
big.
those.
Yeah. The Vikings need to stop drafting KJ Osborne and draft players who can return punts, not returners. I still hate that we made a pick on KJ Osborne. I thought that was a wasted pick, but
and I think he went before Donovan Peoples-Jones, which just bothered the hell out of me because I was screaming that we needed to take him for the 2 rounds before that. And again, you never know what a prospect's going to end up becoming. But it was nice to feel validated that he balled out for the Browns when given the opportunity. So,
well, Donovan Peoples-Jones was as a hyper athlete, and he played really well in spurts. But obviously, it was Michigan. They had a lot of bodies at receiver. Shea Patterson stinks, and if I remember correctly, he fell because of an injury concern. I think it was like something with his knee. I'm not 100% positive, but I know there was a reason why he fell because I thought he would go fringe round 2, round 3, and he just
Same.
did. Yeah. So I think the pick here, Daz Newsome, wide receiver, North Carolina. What?
I just said Dazzy boy. I just love him. I love his tape, so I'm a big fan.
Perfect.
Done.
We got one last pick, 143.
Oh. And they want to trade.
What are we giving up a 6 to get that package?
The Steelers will give us this year's 141. They want to receive and a 7th rounder. This sounds like a Spielman special.
I'd say do it because you're moving up 2 spots and you're only giving up 4 in round 7. That's smash it. Accept it.
It's worth it.
Yep.
All right, let's go back to the full board, please, Dave. Let's kind of take a scope of what we're looking at. All right. I can't believe he is still here. I have him graded as a early to mid 3rd round pick. That's Jalen Twyman, defensive tackle, Pittsburgh. He's a great, quick, twitchy pass rusher. Needs some work in the running game. But you're drafting guys right now who you can develop and who are good at one thing. Jalen Twyman is good at rushing the passer.
Yeah.
Bring him in.
Which would be a good rotational piece to develop.
Yeah, I mean, in clear pass rush situations, you take Pierce off the field, you put Twyman at 3, you put McNeil, hopefully who's developing into a good player there that we got in round 3 at the nose, and you rush the passer.
Boom. There we go. That is your Vikings 4-round draft class.
And then you go get round 5. You need a corner.
And Mike Zimmer is happy as all get out with this pick, or these selections.
We'll recap them real quick. Edge Kwity Paye in the first round of 14 for out of Michigan. 78 linebacker Jabril Cox, LSU, who also played at NDSU for those keeping track. 90, Aleem McNeil, 3 technique out of North Carolina State, who has capabilities to play a 1 technique and an out front. 119, offensive tackle Deante Smith, East Carolina. 125, Darius Washington, safety TCU. 134, Daz Newsome, wide receiver North Carolina. And 141, Jalen Twyman, 3 technique out of Pittsburgh. Guys, this is a really good draft class that gives a lot of depth to where it's desperately needed on that defensive line. You're putting in 3 guys who all have upside. And I think that's the big thing with how we're going to continue to want to work and grow with this defense. You're giving Mike Zimmer pieces that have legitimate upside. And Jabril Cox is a guy who you don't need right away, but he'll start as that weak side linebacker in a base set, and he'll continue to grow and develop, and hopefully you can trust him to take over for an Anthony Barr down the road. And our Darius Washington could start day 1. He's got skill sets. He's just tiny. That's his only drawback. I think we did a really good job with this class. We got some new names to talk about, and we kind of took it in a different direction. We went really defense heavy when we have been going a lot of offense.
Hey, we make Mike Zimmer happy rebuilding that defense. And it's needed. It's one of those things that's needed.
It absolutely is. Gentlemen, before we take off, any final thoughts for the evening?
Oh, this was fun. I think this would be a great class. I always want to see some more offensive talent, but the way the board fell, I think we did the best we could, and this was an excellent class. I think the only luxury pick, I guess, was maybe Jabril Cox, but again, good teams plan for now and the future, and I think he can contribute now, and I think he'll be a good player for us in the future when, like you said, inevitably we're going to need to let one of those 2 go, and he can step in and really fill that hole, hopefully quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe this is the draft after we trade for Deshaun Watson, and we needed to replace Anthony Barr. So,
boom, Dave,
I'm cool with
take
this.
Us home.
Watch tomorrow night as we have In the Huddle. Same time, same channel, 8 o'clock Central, live. Everybody else, be safe, be healthy, and enjoy your week. Skol Vikings!
watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.